Today, we're remembering one of the most influential Republican voices in Congress, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. The White House flying flags at half-staff following Graham's sudden and unexpected death. The 71-year-old was one of the most prominent Republicans on Capitol Hill for more than 3 decades. The senator's team releasing a new statement sharing that his preliminary cause of death is cardiovascular disease. Hours before his passing, he returned to the U.S. from a trip to Ukraine, appearing healthy. President Trump speaking on the loss of one of his top allies and friends, revealing some of the last words the senator said to him just hours before his untimely death.
I got a call last night sometime in, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it.
First serving in the House in 1995, residents across South Carolina and Graham's hometown paying tribute.
He's going to be remembered for years. I mean, it's a big loss.
He's done it all and accomplished a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us for NewsNation Live. I'm Nick Smith. Let's get straight out to NewsNation's Joe Khalil live at the White House with the very latest. Joe, good afternoon. We're now getting this cause of death, but I have to ask you, what else do we know at this hour?
Yeah, that cause of death coming from the medical examiner's office here in Washington, D.C., and then released to the public by Senator Graham's office, which is essentially that he had a rip or a leak in his aorta, which was underlined also by cardiovascular disease. So that's what we know so far. But without a doubt, a major loss for the institution of the United States Senate and a shock. Nobody expected today that the flags here at the White House would be flying at half-staff for Senator Lindsey Graham, 71 years old, as he passes. He was a huge presence. He was a force on Capitol Hill. And whether you loved or hated him, whether you were a political rival who disagreed on policy, or whether you loved his policy preferences, what is without a doubt is his impact in the Senate. He was really at the heart of virtually every major policy battle that we saw over the last 10 or 15 years when it came to foreign policy and wars, whether it's the situation in Iran, whether it's the situation with Russia. He is a hawkish Republican senator. Many Republicans did not agree with him on his full extent and support of Israel, his support for Ukraine at a time when that wasn't exactly the popular position within the Republican Party. But it came as such a shock because of some of the images you're watching on your screen right now. This is not from weeks or months ago. This is literally on Friday. He is sitting across the table in Ukraine from President Volodymyr Zelensky. He is touting a bill that he worked on with Democrats to put extensive sanctions on Russia, a bill that he talked about on Friday, saying he felt like it could bring an end to this war closer and in favor of Ukraine. He was also a major presence, Nick, when it comes to what our Supreme Court and our federal judiciary now look like because of his perch on the Senate Judiciary Committee. So again, virtually every single consequential thing that the Senate has done in a bipartisan way or otherwise, you could usually find Senator Graham at the heart of it. And that is why today, after his years in the Senate, we are seeing Republicans and Democrats alike releasing statements, many of which remember him as a friend. Whether you disliked him or his policies, people respected Lindsey Graham. And a lot of Democrats who you maybe wouldn't expect to be putting out such statements today are doing so, talking about the human being that he was, that they have good, fond memories of working with him in a personal way. And again, just a lot of shock and surprise that we are here in this place now talking about Lindsey Graham in memoriam.
And, Joe, you talk about his legacy and how he worked across the aisle, regular legislation, in fact, rather significant legislation with Senator Cory Booker. But, Joe, none of this happens in a vacuum. I have to ask you, what happens next? Because we know that there's a process to replace him.
Yeah, and look, that's the political reality right now. Senate Republicans have a very close margin. They're already down Senator Mitch McConnell, who was hospitalized. So, again, it seems sort of the ugly politics of it, but that is a factor. And what we know is that the governor in South Carolina right now, Governor McMaster, is actually considering who to temporarily replace Senator Graham with. That is his choice as governor. He gets to appoint somebody who finishes the rest of Lindsey Graham's term. Now, we know Senator Graham was running for re-election. His term was up. He was going to be done at the end of this year, and he was running for re-election, hoping to get another 6 years as South Carolina's senator. So whoever McMaster appoints, that person will serve until the end of the year. Separate from that, next month, there's going to be a special election to replace Lindsey Graham on the November ballot. Whoever that person is, that will be a Republican. They will face off against Annie Andrews, the woman you see on the right side of your screen. She is the Democrat who, up until a day ago, was running against Lindsey Graham, trying to unseat him. So she will be the Democrats' nominee. There will be a vote next month as to who Republicans' nominee will be. No longer Lindsey Graham, obviously. And there are already several Republicans in South Carolina who've thrown their names in the ring. We're going to find out, presumably in the next day or two, who actually means it and who wants to have their names on the ballot officially. We will find out shortly, Nick.
And, Joe, I have to believe that there are a lot of backroom deals being made and a lot of calls being taken to try to figure out what the next move should be.
Yeah.
NewsNation's Joe Khalil live at the White House with the breaking news. Joe, thank you so much. Earlier on NewsNation, I spoke with former Democratic Congressman from South Carolina, Joe Cunningham. He worked with Senator Graham during his time in Congress, and I asked him where he stood with things and South Carolinians and how they feel. And right now, after the senator's passing, what the mood may be.
So I worked with Senator Graham when I served in Congress, and I had a good working relationship with him, even though we worked across the aisle. And I always found him to be, witty and funny, and always got along with him, very well, and in helping to make the lives of South Carolinians better. And look, my heart goes out to his sister Darlene and her two daughters, and also the staff of Senator Graham, who are going through the pain and mourning of losing Senator Graham, and so we're thinking about them tonight.
Yeah, loss is always hard. It's one of those things where you try to take a moment first to remember that the senator had a family and that there are those who are definitely mourning and missing him right now, not to mention his constituents. President Joe Biden, in his tweet remembering Senator Graham, saying while they disagreed often, they did agree about the importance of public service and the Senate as an institution. How important is this message of unity right now?
I think we need it more than ever. And, although the news headlines always focuses on the votes or the public statements, but, what I learned serving in Congress was much of the work had to do with constituent service and, doing good by your constituents and helping them out in the day-to-day lives, and also bringing back money, funds, and resources for your constituents. And Senator Graham did that. We have a heavy military footprint in the state of South Carolina, and Senator Graham did a good job of bringing back those resources. You go to about every single county in the state and find some project that he's brought back money for. I know of a rural health center in Walterboro, South Carolina, that recently opened up, and probably would not have happened but for the funds that were secured by Senator Graham. So, it's easy to get mired down in the politics and the clickbait and everything, but much of the work of members of Congress has to do with focusing on constituent services.
Joe, let's talk about those constituent services, because one of the things you can't help but do is look at the future, right? The Republican governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster, will appoint a temporary replacement for Senator Graham until January 3rd of 2027. You're there, you're on the ground, you're speaking to people. Who do you expect that to be?
Well, look, it could be a number of people. I mean, it's no surprise that, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott is probably a name being floated. It could be, any one of the members of Congress as well, the Republicans who are serving right now. It could be a number of folks. I know Nikki Haley Her name has been floated around too, and in certain circles, especially considering that Governor McMaster would probably not be in office, but for Nikki Haley having him as her running mate years ago. So there's probably a handful of names. The question is, will it be just a placeholder, or will it be giving somebody kind of a head start to running in what will be basically a sprint? I think the filing period will probably open up later on this month and then close about a week after. And then you're looking at probably a special election come like August 11th for a couple weeks, and then a runoff if necessary.
Republican Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell has just released a brand new photo of himself and his wife, giving a health update following a whirlwind of speculation of where he has been. His doctor says McConnell fell at his home last month, where he was admitted to the hospital and recovered from minor injuries. His doctor says he developed pneumonia early on while at the hospital. McConnell said in the statement, quote, "My doctors have confirmed that I didn't break any bones or suffer a concussion. I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't have any tumors or hemorrhages, but I was briefly unconscious and was taken to the hospital." It goes on to say, "I've submitted to every test they can think of to help figure out what caused this incident, and I'm continuing to do everything they ask to speed my recovery." Senator Lindsey Graham's sudden passing continuing to shock lawmakers across the country. We have some insight into what might happen next as South Carolina's Republican governor can appoint a temporary replacement for Graham until the beginning of next year. And President Trump directing new strikes on Iran in retaliation for attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. A retired U.S. Army general joins us live.